Welcome to My Love of Life Energy. I'm Anna Scott, your host. I love beautiful, rich conversations that reveal the truth, beauty, and uniqueness of each person I meet, and I'm honored to share them with you. Good morning and good afternoon, and welcome to my podcast, My Love of Life Energy. And today I'm honored, delighted, so many different things. Brad Byrum is here. Welcome, Brad.
Yeah, great to be here with you, Anna.
So I met Brad, God, I don't know, eons ago. You were still living in San Francisco and you were working for the Zen Hospice.
Yeah.
And I had lunch with you and you said one thing to me at lunch and you said about I don't know if you remember this, about my husband's dementia.
Mhm.
And it was the first time I felt like somebody understood me. You said his death is like a slow death every day, just a little piece.
Mhm. Yeah.
And when you said that, I felt so seen. And when it did pass, you had been getting your license to become a therapist, and I knew you were the therapist I needed.
Yeah.
And so you helped me with my grief. And so I invited you because, well, one, I love you and I wanted to thank you. And then I wanted other people to know about you and
Yeah.
honor that. And
I
then the
remember,
other,
I actually remember that lunch you and I
do
had.
you?
Yeah. And I remember that conversation, and we talked about incremental grief, the way you lose a little bit at a time, and how heartbreaking that is. Right. And uh, it's a very different kind of grief. Yeah.
You seem to know the kinds of grief that are available.
Yeah. Well, I've suffered a lot, you know, not uniquely, just my own particular version of suffering and grief. So um, that's how we really learn, isn't it? Yeah. I was teaching in an online spiritual directors training school. People invited me to teach for a while, which I did. And at one point, one of the students asked me, "Well, how did you arrive at what feels like such a grounded place of being able to engage with yourself and others?" And I said, "Well, you just have to suffer enough."
I'm laughing, but there's such a truth bomb in that.
Yeah, yeah,
But I think it's you, before we started, we talked about that this is my form of activism,
yeah,
is that I want to show more love
yeah.
and what's possible. And you spoke about what's happening in the world right now and the suffering and how we handle it. Could you speak more about that?
Well, oh, there's so much that one could say, isn't there? And there's so much that is really beyond language. We can feel it, but we can't find language for it. Um, so I can only speak from my own experience and my own orientation as a um, psychotherapist, and as more deeply as a contemplative and a Buddhist practitioner. And um, so there, ultimately, we are being confronted with, at least I feel like we're being confronted in our own culture and our own society, our own politics, and more broadly on a global basis, with two very different ways of viewing reality. Uh, One is individualistic and characterized in the old Buddhist trilogy of greed, hate, and delusion. And the other, and of course, there's a whole spectrum of the in between. But the other set of values is one that is grounded in uh, a recognition of the interdependent nature of reality. That no one is safe until everyone is safe.
Hmm.
And so there's a very different way of viewing the world. And so how we respond to what's happening arises out of, I think, those values that are informed by that. So I would say that responding to what's happening now in our own country is really understanding how we think reality actually is. You know? And then what are the values associated with that? So for me, those values are compassion and loving kindness, equanimity, and not being submerged by it, but also not being silenced by it. Too, right? And that we show up in the world the way we're able to show up in the world, manifesting our deep commitment to reality. And for me, that's the interdependent nature of things, which is means that my response arises from compassion and a sense of creative compassion and how we respond to injustice and to human suffering generally. And it also is about what I don't trust, right? Not trusting hatred. I don't trust rage. And I trust grounded, clear, courageous presence. That's how I think about it. Does that make sense?
It does. It's interesting about the rage part. That's the one, as a woman, I felt the rage, not as action, but as an energy. It's like, this can't go on anymore. I don't want people to kill my children anymore. I don't, like, I just feel it so deep in my bones. It doesn't mean that I want to act out of it, but I trust the feeling and then where it will direct me.
Yeah. Well, when we're moving from that place of deep and profound rage or anger, anger is a highly evolved aspect of our humanness. It's a necessary aspect of our humanness. It's in itself neither good nor bad. Anger and rage is telling us something is happening which is dangerous to the well-being of all of us. That's what we want to get to, right? And so how do we transform that anger into something that is wise and actionable?
I just felt like when you were speaking, Brad, we were talking about ice, and I just felt like what you just did is cut a hole in the ice.
Yeah.
Like that thick into a different level. I can feel it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's okay for us to stand up, as many of us are, and say no. This is wrong. It's wrong for lots of reasons, but fundamentally it's wrong because it's a reflection of a profound ignorance about the nature of reality. And when we live in a political system that is engaging in the way it is, and the violence and the oppression and the injustice, it makes all of us enemies of reality. Because reality, as I've said several times, is actually interdependent, arising all the time. And none of us are safe until all of us are safe. And so to be able to come from that, to approach what's happening from that perspective, for me, anyway, gives me a grounded place to perceive. But it doesn't mean that I don't feel anger. It's what I do with that anger.
Yeah.
I actually want the arrogant to be humbled. I want those who trade in lies to be exposed. I want those who are being oppressed and treated unjustly to be exalted. I want them to be the heroes. of our story, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
When you're talking about interdependence, so people who are listening to this, one is I hope they feel the energy that you're speaking from
Yeah.
because it's so beautiful. Can you share more about what that looks like in our life from your point of view?
Hmm. Well, to me, it just begins with how things are. So if we, setting aside any spiritual or religious connotations to this, if we just look into the world of quantum physics, we discover, that everything is apparently related to everything else,
Mm.
right? There's something called quantum estrangement I thought was found astonishing, where uh, a, a, a flow or particle of energy at a vast distance from another particle of energy can, as I understand it, can interact and are interacting, right? How does that happen? So there are causes and conditions that are creating this present moment of reality for all of us. And we know that we just know that when we live in harmony with each other in the environment, everything feels better. We're happier.
Mhm.
Yeah. And when we're in conflict, it
Mm.
feels unsafe and dangerous. Yeah. I don't know if that's helpful at all. It's just the in Buddhist practice, we talk about wisdom, and wisdom is sometimes the word shunyata means emptiness, but emptiness doesn't mean empty. It just means nothing left out. Everything is connected to everything.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's funny, you're speaking words, but what's profound to me is the place you're speaking from
Mm-hmm.
and the feeling,
Yeah.
the deep peace, the quiet, and the spaciousness that you seem to live from.
Mm. That feels true to me sometimes.
Does it right now?
Well, I think, yeah, I think, you bring out the best in me. So when I'm with you, I feel that I can settle into um, some authentic version of me. Yeah. So, but as again, I'm going to go back and talk about the Buddha a bit. In the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha said there actually is a path, there is a way, and hence the so-called Eightfold Noble Path that the Buddha offered as a way of moving from suffering and its causes to a place of awakening. And it's my experience that when we have some sense of awakening, it just is so obvious that there is nothing but connection. And that the only hope we have as human beings is to awaken to that reality. And perhaps many people are saying that we're simply living through seems so difficult right now, but it's actually the living through a necessary process of awakening to the reality of our interdependence.
If I trust life and I trust whatever this intelligence is, then I have to trust this too. It doesn't mean I like it.
You're right. Yeah.
And those are very different conversations.
Right. Exactly. There's a wonderful teaching in the Mahayana Buddhist, the Tibetan teaching, the Lojong teachings, they're called, about mind training. And it's one of the points of mind training. I think it's the third point, which says, how to transform adverse conditions into the path of awakening. And it's so beautifully offered. And it first of all begins with taking the position that everything that's happening can be a teacher, can be a way of waking up. And what are we waking up to? Well, according to this particular teaching, we're waking up to the way in which we are trapped in a sense of me and I, and estranged from connection. And what we might call in the old-fashioned language, we're just selfish. And so we see everything from our selfishness. And we see this, by the way, being manifested now in a manner that is breathtakingly obvious. We see this being manifested in a way that is astonishingly clear. What a gift we're being given to see what happens when sheer selfish greed for power is allowed free reign. Wow, this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Right. And so in this teaching I'm talking about, we first of all say, well, I'm going to take this as an opportunity to wake up. This is the Buddha teaching me something. What can I learn? Well, first of all, I'm noticing that I'm approaching this from my own perspective. Can I see this from the perspective of interdependent arising? What are the causes and conditions creating this moment? How can I work with these causes and conditions? Well, first of all, I'm going to take responsibility for myself. To the degree that my own orientation is selfish and self-oriented, I want to work with that. And the way that we work with that in this teaching is by cultivating love and compassion in a body practice of taking in the suffering of others and breathing out freedom from suffering. It's actually called exchanging self and other in this tradition. And that's an actual practice we can do. This is really important. It's not just an idea or concept. You work with it in your body, working with it. So that's one way to think about how to be present to what's happening if we can transform adverse conditions into the path of awakening.
It's so like I just feel this is my experience, is how much you've worked with yourself and your reactions and your own experience to transform your reactions or being even aware of them.
Yeah.
Like to have them.
Yeah, to be able to have those, like I do, and like I'm sure many of us are having, those moments of overwhelming feelings of rage or overwhelming feelings of helplessness, which can be enraging, or overwhelming experiences of fear. And so learning what we don't most deeply trust. And of course, I'm nobody special. This is available, I think, to all human beings. And again, it's not because I've done anything particularly special. I've also been helped. Oh my goodness. All the people who have helped me, all my teachers who have been helped by their teachers, right? And so it is this lineage of interdependent awakening that happens. Yeah. None of us are doing this ourselves by ourselves. There is no ourselves.
When you speak, there's this feeling of reverence for life.
Oh, yeah.
Just this deep, deep reverence for life and all that's in it.
Well, I spent many years working in hospice and working with people at the end of life. And I don't know what I thought it would happen by engaging in that way. Two things happened for me. One is I developed a profound respect for the process of dying. And secondly, I developed a profound respect for the gift of being alive. uh,
Oh, that's
so
so funny. All of a sudden, I remember our conversation at lunch that day because we spoke about that,
yeah,
that that's the gift of death and being so close to it is that you get this kind of like, oh my God, I'm still alive. I'm still here. I still get this.
yeah. It's and that's something we intimately share with all human beings um, if we can reach that point together, we all share this. It's one of our deepest points of intimacy that we are so fragile and so precarious and so impermanent, and that our end is always approaching. And this is a deep point of intimacy between us, right? And, and it's also a deep point, I think, of becoming fully human is living in that reality. The degree that we can. Of course, I don't want to suggest that I know anything about dying or death. I don't. But at least I've been given the gift of awareness of how precious it is to be alive.
What did you become aware that was new because of that?
Oh, wow. How can I describe it? I started bowing to everything. So
What was going on?
in Zen practice, there's really just three things. There's sitting and walking and bowing, or at least that's how I was taught Zen practice. And so I found myself bowing in reverence to people, of course. And when I say, I don't mean as a formality, I mean really. And when I say bow, in Zen it's just gasho. It's not a big deal, but it's deeply meaningful. But then I found myself bowing all the time. I still do. All the time I'm bowing. And I remember vividly walking down Page Street one day in San Francisco, I just walked out of the Zen Hospice guest house, and I was walking down Page Street. And, we all see these moments, but sometimes they pass us by. And there was a little pinkish, yellowish flower with almost like I can't even describe it. It was so beautiful. And it was growing up out of the crack in the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so taken. It was spontaneous in that moment. Given the context, if I had just walked out of a place where I was sitting with someone at the end of life, and I saw that beautiful little flower, no bigger than a penny, growing up out of the sidewalk, and I was so overwhelmed with the reality of the beauty of life, and I just had to stop and the sidewalk and bow to that flower. And so I don't know. That's how I would answer the question. How does it affect me? I just bow to things more.
Do you have do you remember before you got on this path, what you were like, what your experience was like?
Oh boy. Well, I've been on this path more or less for about 50 years. I began in a evangelical part of the Christian tradition and moved through, got thrown out of that eventually, thankfully, and moved on to other ways of being. But I've always been, from the time I can remember, I had experiences as a little boy of what I now know is a kind of enlightenment experience where it was always outside, and I grew up on a cattle ranch in the middle of the Great Plains. And I was always alone, and I was always outside under this huge blue sky. And I had experiences of complete freedom and bliss in the universe. So that's how I trace it all the way back to those experiences, I think. And then, of course, I went through all the dumbass things that we all do as human beings. Failed marriages and heartbreaks and and attempts to be good and failing. And, as I said earlier, it's a lot of suffering, I think, for most of us. Yeah.
It's just, it's so refreshing. Sitting with you is like sitting by a beautiful river
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well,
and watching it flow
mm,
and
yeah,
seeing what happens. And I can't imagine. I was like, I wonder what it would have been like. Like, have you always been this way, or like, did it get cultivated? Did it?
yeah. Well, I think that the answer to that is yes. It's both, I think, yes, that, if, again, this is my view of things, that there is a profound, deep wisdom that inhabits us at our very deepest level. And the journey of life is that wisdom finding a way to be expressed in relationally in the world. And so much of what we call awakening is what I call awakening is just becoming more attuned to the truth of that wisdom that is always there. And that wisdom, as I experience it, is gentle and kind and respectful. That wisdom, and yet it is very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't have to demand anything because it's the power of that wisdom is in the way it influences or can influence us to take the risk of becoming ever more vulnerable.
My mother used to have a saying. She would say, I gave birth to you and I can take you out. I brought you in and I can take you out. And I think that's this wisdom. Like, don't you think you're in charge, really?
Yeah, 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 of course.
I think
Well,
that's what
and
go ahead.
I just want to, say that this journey that each of us has our own unique journey. And I think there are sometimes, characteristics of the journey that many of us share. And it is coming into contact with impermanence. It is also experiencing at some point along the way being loved, deeply loved, uh, and seen and heard. And so many of us long for that. And our neurotic, narcissistic actions are often arising out of a deep and profound wound of not being loved and seen. Right? So just also want to be, that's where compassion, I think, is so important. The Dalai Lama talks all the time about everybody wants the same thing. They want to be happy. Just that we have so many failed strategies of being happy that ultimately make us unhappy and unfortunately make others unhappy, right? So, yeah.
There's this beauty of that I can feel that like it's in your bones or your DNA or something somewhere in your field of knowing that you're loved
Mm-hmm.
and having that feeling.
Yeah, I do experience that, and I don't know anything about the truth of the ultimate things. I don't know anything, but I do experience that when when I used to. I'm old now, so I have to sit in a chair and when I meditate. But when I was younger, I could sit down on the zafu and zabuton for hours and in Zen, you face in Soto Zen tradition, you face the wall, etc. And there was lots of difficulty with that, of course. But one of the things I experienced, and I didn't realize what I was experiencing at first, was when I would sit down on the cushion and turn my attention to my breathing, I would experience something like being held. And it was not a physical experience, but I would experience something like that. That there was some mystery of kindness that was holding me. Oh, it didn't always happen. Sometimes I was just miserable sitting there, but it happened enough so that I came to trust that. And of course, in my earlier experience, when I was a much younger person, I grew up in a world where I was told that I was loved by God. Now, there were all sorts of other things I was told about God as well. But I was told that I was loved by God. I was told that Jesus loved me. This is part of my heritage from my own ancestors. And that's so important. Regardless of what one ultimately believes about those sorts of assertions, it has a deep formative impact on, for me anyway, on, I think, my soul, my capacity. There were certainly times that I didn't believe that. I certainly had experiences that seemed to say to me that couldn't possibly be true. And yet, here I am. It seems like it was truer than I knew. It just changes, right, over time.
It's interesting sitting here with you as I feel the emanation of that truth.
Yeah.
And then what it does is it touches me and wakes that up in me.
Yeah.
And I think that's the word that I want to use. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's
it's
the interconnected.
It's kind of contagious, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of a nice contagious. I like this one. Brad, we're coming to the end.
Yeah.
And is there a wish or something you want to say in closing?
Oh, well, I wish that all of us would be able to say, from a place of love and peacefulness and gratitude, I wish we could all say authentically, I love being me. Yeah. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Wouldn't that be wonderful? How much suffering would be relieved by just that capacity to love ourselves and love being who we are.
That's a beautiful wish.
Yeah.
We share a same wish. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That makes sense that we would share that same wish.
All right. So people who are looking for a beautiful therapist relationship, I really can't say enough about Brad. When my darkest times challenging, I sat with Brad and healed deep parts of me. You're part of one of, when you talked about teachers or people who I've met on my path, you're one of them. And I'm eternally grateful.
Yeah.
I always have felt such honor that I've gotten to be with you.
And I you. And I you.
So much love. Thank you, everybody.